Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Well, one, thank you all for such positive feedback from the video yesterday and everyone who signed up for our pitching compass session. Should be a great session tomorrow. We have so far over 600 people and I anticipate on getting to over 1,000. So if you have not, we'll put the link, and we have new content and it's a new spin on a familiar subject. But today we're going to talk about something even more important. It's communication. You know, I was going through an experience recently where I had referred an agent who's a good friend of mine to a client, and the communication was a little off. However, the most amazing thing is, in a market where nothing was selling, the agent was able to not only generate a great amount of traffic, but was able to generate his own buyer, which I found quite interesting because all the other clients that had in the same market, nothing was selling. However, do you know what the client's level of excitement was? Zero. Why? Because the communication wasn't there. Now, you can remember me for many things, and obviously the first one would be like, make sure that you have a great life before you have a great work life, right? And that there's balance and that you're doing the things that matter for the people that you care about. And the second thing would be this: no matter how good of a job you do, how much money you make somebody, how great of a deal you have, if your communication sucks, you did a bad job, and that's what they'll remember. You know that quote that says, no one will ever remember what you said or what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel? Well, the reality is when you don't communicate with people, you don't make them feel good. So think about this. I'll always go back to having a contractor work in your house. Who has ever really had a great communication experience with a contractor? I can finally say I've had one, as my office has been built out, and this contractor actually sent me a spreadsheet with a timeline. I was shocked. Outside of that, you know what lack of communication creates? Fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Write those three words down: fear, doubt, uncertainty. Good morning, Antonio. You know, is your goal to create fear, doubt, and uncertainty for a client? No. If they don't know what's going on, that is what you're doing. So just remember Chirag's golden rule. If your clients are calling you, you're doing a bad job. Period. End of story. And anyone that wants to have an educated debate about this with me, I more than welcome it. But if you give people predictable information in the way they want it, and you explain it all to them in the beginning, they're either crazy and they don't want to accept logic and they're not looking for a professional. They're looking for somebody who works on demand, or they're going to understand why it's important for everything to be in one place. Now, remember, collections is an interactive tool which allows you to collaborate with your clients in almost real time. It's like an interactive stock ticker. Would you ever buy a stock where you could not look up its price? No. Would you ever want to work with a real estate agent that didn't have an interactive portal that you could do the same thing? The answer is no. And then when they say, well, why do we have to put all this stuff in one place, Chirag? I say, Lisa, and we could write this one down. Has there ever been a time where you have lost important information communicating through phone, email, text, and other platforms? Who can answer that question? No. Everyone has lost stuff because it's the nature of what we do. And what you want to tell your clients is, this is exactly why we organize everything and have our conversations in one place. Welcome to the real benefit of collections. So Kate and I are going to demo how to do this with the seller today. We're going to ask you guys lots of questions. Then Deborah's been nice enough to create a form where you're going to be able to put your questions in. And then as a team, we're going to be able to work to get you the answers. So you have all the stuff you need to be able to take action. Does that sound good to everybody? All right, good. So Vanna White, where are you today?
I'm over here. We're over here.
All right. Okay, so let's spotlight Kate.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I'm going to be the seller and you're going to be the agent.
Okay.
So you can
So-
set the scenario.
Okay, so I'm using like a real life scenario of a listing that just will not sell, and the sellers will not reduce the price for another reason. But let's just pretend like these are just difficult sellers who really just don't want to reduce the price. So I have their collection set up, which basically has a very strict, and I'll go through this, a very strict criteria set up so that any comps that come on the market, they're automatically shared with them. And I'm going to show you like the alert settings that I have with that so that they're not bombarded. And I'm going to show you as the comps come on the market, as things go into contract. So once they come on the market, then as they go into contract, what types of comments I would leave, so that my seller can feel that I'm, one, have a really good pulse on the market, and two, it's a nice way of sharing the information with them without owning the information, in my opinion. So that's kind of the scenario.
All right, good. So walk me, I'll be the client,
Right.
and I'll follow your lead.
All right. So do you want me to go through before we do that, how I would set this up?
Yeah.
Okay. So I already made this, obviously. So you'll see like there's not a ton of things that have populated because I have such strict criteria. So that's the first thing I would say to people. You obviously don't want to like bombard them with a bunch of things, because then you also get that, like we were talking about last week, people who say, oh, this is not a comp. How could you think this is a comp for my house? So in my criteria here, never it wants to load. All right. So I have $1 million plus. I'm not as concerned about a cap for that because I can just filter them out. I have coming soon, active, pending, temporarily off market, and withdrawn, because I also want to see as those come off. 4+ bedrooms, a specific district, and then a specific element, like the specific elementary schools that I wanted to pull, because certain elementary schools here would pull different areas, and those are just not comps for us because they could be much closer to the train station, all that. And then I did 2,500 to 5,000 square feet, and 10 results have come up. So now they're all in here. Does that make sense to everybody so far? We're good since we've gone through collections. Okay. So now I basically just click save. And then I got everything in here. So now I have all this stuff in here. If any of them ever filter, like there was one that was a lake property that has nothing to do with this. That's a complete anomaly. So I filtered that one out, new construction, but it's really just raw land, filtered that one out. So now we're left with all of this. So I kept as many in there that I really feel are what my client's looking at that's going to be moving, because they're very high touch clients. They really are following the market. They're not really relying on me so heavily to be the only source of information. So I want to kind of meet them where they are there. So we'll start with maybe 31 Whittier Hills. So this was one that we had been watching for a while. This was one of the comps that came on pretty much around the similar time originally. They've been taking a lot of price reductions. So I had put, this was the one we were watching. Went under contract on 9/22. They accepted $1,050,000. So I try, whenever I have a listing that's not selling, to go and ask the agents what it's actually going into contract for. So she was kind enough to actually share with me the exact price that it went into contract for, and then very similar land to yours, because the lot is a big issue at their house. You want to go through what your experience would be, Chirag?
Well, look, here's the part, right? Number one is, you notice how everyone take a note. If you have properties going into contract, right when they went into contract, it's always worth asking the agents a few questions. Hey, would you mind sharing what it went to contract for? Were there multiple offers? Was there anything that you could share that would give me additional insight that's not on the MLS, right? Is there anything additional insights you can share that people cannot find online? So this is where you really build that you're on top of things and that you're a market expert. And that's what you start putting in there. Now, the second part is, now Kate will do a role play. Kate, why can't I just call you for this information? Because like we see stuff, we want to know what's going on. I get you're saying put it in here, but can't we just call you for the information because it'll be quicker?
You absolutely could call me. I just have always found that it's much easier if we can all collaborate in one place. This way, if I'm not available at a certain point, you always have somewhere to go back into and refer to. So you're not always waiting for me to be able to respond if I'm possibly not there. So you always have one place to go in and all of our communications in one place.
So I would say I would flip this. So now you be the client and I'll be the agent.
Okay. You want me to ask the same question?
Same question.
Okay. So why can't I just call you for the info? Why do I have to log on to this and go and check a collection every day?
That's a great question. So what is the exact benefit you're looking for calling? Just saving time and ultimately getting a quicker answer?
Yeah. Not having to learn a
Right.
whole new platform.
Got it. And I completely hear what you're saying is that you want quick answers and you want to be able to make this, you want to effectively be able to use it to make the best decision possible, correct?
Correct.
Would you say, Kate, that this is probably one of the larger purchases you've made?
I would. Yeah.
And would it be safe to say that not only the information for this house, the information I find out about it, like the price that went into contract and others, do you think all that stuff would impact your overall decision in the offers you make and, really setting yourself up for financial success through a home in the future?
Think so. Yeah. It's true.
And that's exactly why we want to organize everything for you in one platform. So I'm sure there's been a time that you lost stuff through phone, email, text,
Oh, it's the
multiple
worst.
platforms. It is. And ultimately, we don't want to recreate it. We're not asking you essentially to learn more of a platform. We're asking you to invest 10 or 15 minutes of your time. So when you spend over $1 million, that you have all the data in one place that collects the conversations for you so that we could look at this objectively and be able to advise you. Would you see how that experience might be a little different for you and better in the long run?
Yeah, I would. Would you be able to just give me like a quick, maybe like tutorial on how to use it so that I feel a little bit more comfortable with it?
Absolutely. We could do two things. We could set up a meeting and I could literally walk you through it. One. Two, I could set up a follow-up video, which will show you where to click and how to do it. Or number three, if you're really busy, I could just do it through Zoom or Google Meet and we could make sure that you get it. But I promise you, it's like less than 5 clicks and you'll love it because it's an interactive way that allows us to communicate in almost real time. Think of it like an interactive stock ticker that tells you always what's going on in the market.
Okay. Will I be like super bombarded with notifications? Like, I don't want to get notifications all the time from this. Just maybe, is there like a way to alter that?
Yeah, absolutely. There are different types of notifications, right? I can go through all the options and we'll pick the one that makes most sense for you.
Okay. I think I'd be fine with that then. Yeah.
Yeah, look, some of the benefits are is like when you ask a question about a property, and I know there's you and your mom that you're looking to buy a house together, and there's your fiance, Matt, right? So it's like the three of you want a mother-daughter, and it's very exciting. But say you had a question, Matt had a question, Corinne had a question about the same property. And if all three of you contacted us, I'm sure it'd be valuable to know what the other person wanted to know and the answer ultimately, correct?
Oh, that's so. Can my husband also be in this as well?
Yeah, your husband,
Oh,
your husband
great.
can be in this, your mother-in-law, your mom could be in this. And the nice part is it allows you guys as multiple parties to be able to have one conversation and communicate with each other as well.
Okay, perfect. Because we have a lot of different group chats going right now. So that would make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Cool.
So either way, right? What I wanted to show you is the way that Kate's speaking, the way that I'm speaking is different ways to facilitate the conversation, right? And ultimately, as agents and people who want to create great communication experiences, how valuable is it to organize things into one place, right? Like, Kate, talk a little bit about like accommodating and always being yes versus like drawing a clear boundary, right? And getting people to work in a system that ultimately will work better for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like starting this process up at the beginning, but this gives me back so much time. It's what I talked about with you guys before, being able to just like leave the comments in here and then have everybody, not just me, but also have the clients be able to go in on their own time. And it is true. Like, we are all guilty of this. If you have sellers, how many of you guys like have group chats or email chains going on? Hey, did you see this just came on the market? Oh, why did that go into contract? But where, I thought those buyers came to our house. So they end up buying on that one. It's like, it's such a crazy thing that I can't even remember what I said, and then sometimes also I feel like we not like we lie, but we might have one take on it one day. And then the next day they ask us, wait, but that's not what you said the first time. I thought you said this. So having it all streamlined in like one place gives everybody, yes, it gives everybody time back, but it also just, for me, honestly, I can just remember what I said and stick to the same story at the beginning too.
I agree. So now, at what point would you share these with the seller? In the beginning, in the middle? Like, walk
Yeah.
everyone through that part.
So I do this at the beginning, especially if it's a listing that is not just gonna, which like at the beginning, to be completely honest, like this wasn't as useful when things were just flying off in a day or two because there wasn't enough time for it. But right now, this is extremely helpful. I mean, this is a real life example. Like these are conversations. Whittier Hills, I had this conversation when it went into contract on the 22nd. So with a listing that you think might have to sit for a little bit, or just because of the market, not really because of the listing, I would set them up in this as soon as we go live. So that if we get through a first week and, we didn't have that many showings, but something else came on at the same time, we're able to really compare and contrast. My favorite thing about this is that I really, really, really don't feel like I'm like always the bearer of bad news, like the collection is. So it just tells them, and then I find it. And then I almost kind of feel like in their eyes, we get alerted at the same time. So we can kind of both share that, that kind of sucks experience, rather than it's always like, great, Kate's always the one calling me with the bad news that another one down the street went into contract instead of ours. So it prompts a conversation instead of me having to call with that information, if that makes sense.
It also makes it a we versus me, right?
Yeah.
Remember, antagonist, protagonist. So before we go forward, I want to stop to see what questions people have on this, right? And really what we're looking for is the gap. Where is the gap between where you feel you are today and getting your clients to actually use this? Yeah, Linda, that's a very common
that's great.
experience. Look, it's show me, don't tell me.
100%. Oh, getting them to accept the invitation. If I've actually done this before, if I have clients who like are not as tech savvy, or like they just, I don't know, jump around it a lot and they never want to accept it, I'll just do it like the next time I see them after we're signed. I'll be like, oh, hey, like pull out your computer, I'll accept it, I'll get you all set up. And then I'll just do it for them, get it accepted.
So part of this is understanding the consumer experience, right? So for everyone, if you have not done this yet, no matter how many times you have collection, set up a dummy email yourself the thing, see what the invitation looks like. Where's the button? What does their portal look like? Go through the entire process, so you understand what they see. It's like one of the most vital things.
Yep.
So part of this for all of you is starting to build a streamlined communication process. Kate, do you use the discussion?
I do not. I know a lot of people who do and really love it. I just personally like to have like specific conversations surrounding one property. Otherwise, I feel like it can get a little bit lost.
Doug wants to know how.
Yeah. So I noticed that you did not use any sales. So this isn't really supposed to be like I have used collections, by the way, before for a CMA. This is not meant to be a CMA. This is supposed to be like a fluid collection that, of course, as things close, I would put them in here. Like if a few of these things close, I would keep them in here, but this isn't meant to go back 6-8 months to like what I call the expired market. This is meant to be, who are we up against currently in the race, essentially. But you absolutely could make your CMA that I'm sure everybody uses and put that into a collection. Very similarly, how last week I was doing that with a buyer, you could flip that, do that for a seller. I've absolutely done that before too.
Does anyone have questions now about using collections for comps for sellers? How do you keep it clean and get rid of properties they're no longer interested in? Well, this is not so much for buyers, Susie, right? So you don't have to get rid of properties. These are just competing properties.
Yeah. But you could just go in and filter them out how I did. That's why I said at the beginning, I think the most important part of this, and I'll go in, I'm just going to show you guys how I have my settings, if I did it the right way. Okay, so he hadn't accepted it yet. But basically, I would just change this to, I would like to do weekly. So I think like a week, because I send my insights report weekly, I like to do this weekly. And then I'll also just do listing updates weekly. You could also do this daily. It doesn't really matter. Just remember that like the listing updates means if the price or status changes. So if something goes into contract, they're going to get that alert daily then. So then just be ready that they might want to have that conversation with you on that day rather than just weekly. It does mean you can't bring it up to them. It's just preference. So that's how I would set up the alerts right there. But just like anything else, I would just say, make sure that your criteria is very specific here, because these are going to be automatically sent to your clients. So you don't have that filter out. So you just don't want to have like a ton of stuff populating. I would just either recommend drawing like a shape right around, just making sure that there's really only ones that would be a true comp populating.
Chirag, can I ask a question? Jeremy brought up that when he sends out a CMA or sets up a collection, he gets it, Business Tracker automatically sets it up to the client. And I couldn't figure out why I kept having duplicates and I kept removing them. Is there a way to do a setting or something where it references your Business Tracker, and if it's already in there, they don't set it up?
I don't think it notices the duplicates when you set this up. So what you could do is I would just basically go in here and remove from Tracker.
Okay.
So just something to know. I think maybe when you set it up, you can say don't add to Business Tracker, but I believe it automatically does. So just one more step, just go in and remove it. I'm sure at one point they'll remove that though.
Doug has a question. It says, if you have
Yeah.
search results immediately and you have multiple collections, you feel bombarded each morning with the slew of emails.
You know, I don't have a lot that are automatically set up. So I kind of feel like I've just go in during like my time block, honestly, and I filter them out in like my active clients that like I currently have. Like for my listings, if I have, let's say 4 or 5 listings at a time, I'm really only having automatic searches in there for like 4 or 5 properties. So I don't feel like it's too much, but also like I'm going to keep going back. If your criteria is not specific enough, yes, I would feel bombarded. If every single house in Katona Lewisboro came on, yeah, I'd be like, okay, this is too much. So I make it very, very specific. Like any house that comes on in this is going to be a comp because of the criteria that I have set. So that's one way I would say to not feel bombarded. And then really like set up a time block, unless you guys have like 25 buyers at a time who are really, really, really actively looking in there. Then maybe it could feel like it's a little bit overwhelming. But to me, it's also like that part of like, maybe I'm just a control freak, but like, that's how I advise, is by having a really, really cleaned up collection. So to me, this takes priority over anything else. I feel bombarded by the spam emails I get from the broker open houses in LA, not by this stuff.
By the way, public service announcement: do not email your broker open house.
Take me off your list.
Yeah, please. Like, let's all realize that somebody's inbox is a nice, clean place where you actually want to go and not feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're sending agents newsletters, make sure it's something that's valuable to them. Right. If agents are a good source of your business, then send an agent newsletter that shares tips of what's working for you and your business so they can get value from you. Like, another agent doesn't care about your local farmers market in another state and city that they're never going to be visiting.
I don't.
You're not hurting anybody, Linda.
One more thing I just saw in here is somebody else had put it in there. If you don't want to get bombarded by this every day, then just change your stuff to weekly too, or daily.
Tiffany had a good question. She's like, I have a lot of listings. And how do I spend too much time not looking at all the data? Well, look, I would categorize who you're really looking for data for, right? There are different tiers. There's people like low-hanging fruit, people that are really motivated to move. And I'd be looking at data for those people more frequently. Then there are people whose listing you took at a price, which you know it's not going to sell. It's going to be on for a longer time. Those people need time on the market. And no matter what you tell those group of people, you can give them the best information in the world. They need to go through the process. Remember, you talk about bringing from somebody to here, here to here. They have to go all the way through the process. So understand how to prioritize your listing and clients. Kate, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think it's the same thing. I'm like such a data geek, and I know like I probably sound like a broken record here, but please, 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 like make a time block for this where like that's all that you're focused on. It's like, okay, great. Time block for my buyers, my collections for my buyers, time block for my collections for my sellers. And then make sure like you're going through that, you're filtering out stuff, you're pulling out the data that you need, but also like don't get too lost in it. Like pull the data that you feel like you really need, but don't also feel like you're looking at everything. Cause I also think that collections and data and the MLS can also be a huge time suck for us. And we're really not pulling out any data that's going to help us because like Chirag said, you might just be doing all this for a client that just needs to feel that 50 days on the market, 60 days on the market. Hold on the listings means that they're temporarily off market. To Susie.
So we're going to drop in a couple things in the chat right now. One, a link to our Pitch and Compass program tomorrow. We encourage you all to come and join. And two, a list of questions if you have them for collections for sellers. As our commitment is to put this all together for you in a way that makes it easy to use. And I'm going to keep going back to this every day. Remember your fourth quarter magic. If you haven't calendared your days off, please do. Finish your project and make sure you're being active and start those Thanksgiving gratitude videos. If you have not done that yet, you're missing out on an entire opportunity. You know, maybe we should just do an interactive session next week on creating those videos. I could give you guys a couple scripts. Everyone could show up prepared, and we can all record videos together. What do you think? Hit yes if you'd actually like to do that.
Yeah, everyone's saying yes because you guys don't have to be the Vanna White on there. That's why you're all saying yes.
You'll be exempt. I'll do this. I will be I'll be the Mr. White.
Good.
All right, good. So we're gonna do an interactive session. We'll send everyone an email like come with your hair did, your makeup on. I'll come and be all pretty too. You know, I'll make sure my hair's on. I'll put a nice set of clothes on. Listen, I'm going to go into my thing and I'm going to record videos and send them out to everyone, just like I'm telling you. The nice part about doing this is you can put anything in the chat and I will give you the script on the call. Literally anything you want. So there's no excuse not to do it. And we'll see how many people actually show up that I'm interested in. Wendy Moore, I know I can count on you being there. So sign up for our Pitch and Compass, and look, we appreciate all your energy, your willingness to make this a collaboration. You know, I always say the difference between a pitch and a presentation is one's a two-way dialogue, the other one's a lecture. We really want to make sure that this is a two-way dialogue between us and all of you. So thank you, Kate. And as always, with love in my heart, I love you all. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Bye. And there's a survey.